it's showtime!
I'm right here, Deborah.
Oh, hi.
Let's be no one for a while. Okay, folks, welcome back. Thank you for watching Honestly with Debra and Troy. The first episode, we talked about my younger life. It was a pretty crazy time, and I got through it. Today's episode, we kind of talk a little bit more about the positive stuff in my life, and we touch on it. There's been a lot of wonderful stuff that's happened to me as a sober adult, and I was sober first and adult later. Just to mention this, and I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time here. It didn't work out with Debra and I, and it is, and I'm not going to try to figure it out. I think we both have our feelings of why it's not going to work out, but we did, mutually agree that it's not going to work out. And but I really think that this is an important thing to do, to bring a positive message, some positive content or some positive media into your life, into everybody's life, because there's so much negative stuff. Things have gotten so crazy. Times, sometimes times are better than others, and it feels like lately here, there's, with the Orlando shooting, and there's all this craziness in this election cycle, and people feel so polarized, and people feel like their America has been subjugated, has been hijacked, and it kind of feels like, to me, it doesn't matter what your perspective is. You feel like this world is not yours, or this country's not yours, and so that is something that's supported in the media, and I think that that we need some more voices that are an opposing view, equal time. And here's the thing. When I say equal time, I mean a positive, truthful message. I think the way to overcome the tide of negativity and insanity is for everyone, you and me, to bring our most positive to the world. Now, you have social media. You've got Facebook, at least, I'm sure. You may have Twitter or Instagram. You have the ability to turn this tide as well. And so I'm going to ask you, participate with me here. Watch the show. Give me your feedback. Let me know what I can do to bring more positive stuff to you. And I'm going to ask you to bring your best, you bring your positive stuff to the world, whether it's posted on social media, because you have a way to make the world better. There's something you do, and you don't have to have a huge audience. Sometimes it's just more powerful to make one person's life better, or a few people. So I'm asking you, I'm urging you, I'm pledging to you that I'm going to do the same. Let's bring our best, most positive stuff to the world. Okay, so let's get back to part 2 of me. Things get better. Things get better in my life. So Deborah's going to interview me and talk about it. I'll see you here at the end. All right, thanks.
It seems like you took after your dad for the first 40 years of your life.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
Well, not 40. No,
30, 20, sorry.
Yeah.
So sooner than I thought.
Yeah.
Most people don't check themselves until they get to around 40, right?
Till they wreck themselves.
And so sometime after your 20s, then you let all the wonderfulness of your mother creep in, and you became clean and sober.
Yeah.
And you got just basically on the road to being more of a stand-up rock and roll guy, if there is such a thing.
Yeah, well, so that part took me a long time. Like my mother's a really amazing woman, and bad dudes love good women, and I
have never heard that before.
Well, I mean,
It's usually you hear girls dig bad boys, but you saying bad boys dig good girls.
Yeah, both ways. It goes both ways.
Okay.
You know, I mean, a real sociopath criminal is looking for a good con or a good somebody to that can pull the pull the wool over their eyes. I'm like mixing all my metaphors here. So pull the rug over the shades or something. I don't know. So, anyways, yeah. I mean, I think it's a two-way street. I think you know, at times when I was my most dishonest. I think I was. I think it was within my compromised values to find somebody that was easy to take advantage of. You know, I think that's a natural thing for somebody who's living dishonestly. You know, and I got to say, sobriety didn't change my. Sobriety slowly changed my character. It took a really long time.
Well, I think what happens when a lot of people get sober, whether it's drinking or pills or whatever, is that eventually they realize, oh, I haven't done any growing over the last several years while I've been covering with this thing. And so it takes some time to catch up, to mature. Yeah. And that's a slow and steady process. I mean, so how do you think do you miss alcohol?
No, I don't.
Do you miss any of it?
Well, you know, the only thing I miss about alcohol is that if you have alcohol, then people don't go, "Why isn't he drinking?" That's the only thing I miss about alcohol is that people go, "Why aren't you drinking?" What I've learned how to do is do what alcohol does, which is get rid of my inhibitions. Like I know how to bypass my inhibitions. And I got to say, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to somebody who doesn't know me well, and they're like, "How you feeling today?" And I'm like, "Great." And they go, "You sure were fucked up last night."
Oh, no.
And I was like, "No, I was kind of stone cold sober." You know? And they're like, "No, dude, you were."
You know why? Because people like to think that other people are as snockered as they are sometimes. Yeah. And misery loves company.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm usually having more fun than anybody else, and I get it. I mean, there's a reason why people drink. Your inhibitions are meant to be lost. You know, like losing your inhibitions is an important thing to do. It's, you know, most likely from 9 to 5, it's good to have your inhibitions just because somebody's depending on you not to be an asshole to their clients, you know. But otherwise, I think you're supposed to be free. I think the idea is to be free. So in terms of my own growth, I really, you know, like, the old man was a really lovable and likable guy, and he did a really poor job of raising me, and there was abuse and neglect there and stuff like that, and you got a guy who's so extreme, and I share this. I mean, we definitely have the same DNA. It's a guy who's so extreme that I entered my 20s realizing I didn't know much about how to be a person. You know, like I suffered consequences. You know, I got the consequences for my actions, but I think the people around me were so shell-shocked. You know, both of my parents. I think my mom was shell-shocked from having to deal with my dad. My dad was shell-shocked from having to deal with his dad. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather was shell-shocked from having to deal with his dad. And so when you say, "Are you related to John Dillinger?" You know, I don't know what the bloodline is, but I know what the line of behavior is.
Wow.
And so I think I was probably in my 30s before I realized I don't know how to be an adult. Like, I don't know how, nobody taught me this stuff, you know, and that was an excuse for like a very short period of time. But that excuse falls away because at some point in time, you have to be responsible for going and learning what you weren't taught, you know? And so I was in no hurry to do that either. Mm-hmm. So my 30s were, while I was totally clean and sober, I raked all the damage that I never got to in my drinking career. I mean, I only drank 8 or 10 years. I got sober when I was 22. It was, I was an extreme case. I was drinking a half gallon of whiskey a day. I was doing a gram or two of Coke a day. I was addicted to those pain pills that killed Prince. I was doing 15 or 20 of those a day. The 750s, the big horse pills. I was doing enough to kill somebody every day, and I had been for a couple of years, and I don't remember the last 3 months.
22 is usually the height of people's party years. I mean, to hear you say you got clean and sober at 22, I was like, dude, you were just getting started.
Oh my God.
But you did it hard from whenever you started till when you finished was hard.
Yeah, I mean,
full speed ahead.
To back that story up, my dad bought me a guitar when I was 13, and I did my best to learn.
Stole it.
Well, it came out of some deal out of a pawn shop, and it was a piece of shit, and it was, Now, another camera. Oh, we got another camera going out on.
Is your dad dead or alive?
He's alive. He's alive. We don't talk.
You don't talk.
It's a long story.
Okay.
Oh, that damn thing.
You don't talk to your dad. Does he live around here?
Yeah.
Does he know you a lot? Does he know you live here in this town?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He knows you exist.
Yeah.
And he knows you're here.
Yeah.
Does he ever try to reach you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He does?
Mm-hmm.
How? How does he try to reach you?
He calls me a couple times a year.
And then you don't accept his calls?
No, I just say, Dad, I asked you to stop calling me.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
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 And what does he say? Does he beg? Does he cry? Does he say okay?
No, he just says, I know I didn't do a good job and, and all that stuff. And I go, well, Dad, I forgive you and I'm over it, And but I need you to respect my request that you don't contact
This
me.
is an interesting phenomenon because oftentimes in social media you'll see the memes about forgiveness. So Troy is an example right now of somebody who has forgiven, but does not want anything to do with his dad.
No, I want something to do with my dad, but he's not a safe guy. He's not a guy that I can trust.
Well, then what did you forgive?
I forgive everything that he's done to me.
Did he ask you for your forgiveness?
No.
Oh.
And so no.
Yeah,
well, he's. Well, and it's a perfect. When you get to the place where you turn over a new leaf in your life, no matter how you do it, there's a million ways to do it, and when you get to that point, you stop apologizing and you start making shit right because you're different.
Well, yeah. I mean, apologies can be hollow. They have to be backed up with some action.
I don't think I've ever gotten an apology that changed anything. And
you didn't, but more critically, you never saw a change in his demeanor or his behavior that would want to make you have him come to lunch or meet him for lunch.
We went to change. No, we went on and off with that.
Oh,
there's been enough of a change that I felt like. I mean, our relationship didn't just. It was basically self-preservation.
Yeah,
I just couldn't have a relationship with a guy.
No, I think that's smart.
Yeah,
very smart.
And it was. I got to the point where it was like, well, why do I keep being upset with him? Why do I keep letting him press my buttons? And it was like, well, he installed them, and it's like, no, it doesn't matter who installed them. It's like I let people press my buttons, and then I realized, well, then why do I let somebody who only presses my buttons into my life? And the thing is not even just that he presses my buttons. I can deal with that. If you press my buttons, that's my problem. That's not your problem.
Yeah, but who wants to be around a button pusher all the time? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's I'll push your button a little bit to get a rise out of you for, the sake of memories, but to sort of have that as your operating system is to do nothing but to be a jerk and to see how many people you can piss off. You can piss off, and that way you go home going, "I did good today.
Yeah.
I pissed off my son again." So, I mean, listen, I'm only curious about how you got to the place of forgiving him, and that he still reaches out to you. So, you ever get any pressure from any other family members who say, "Troy, he's your dad"?
Yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not
they
anymore.
finally let it. They accept.
They all go, yeah, I get it.
They get it.
I get
okay,
it.
well, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And our families develop this rift. There's this rift, and it's here's what it comes down to. There's no bad people in my family. There's some sick people in my family. I've been one of them, and so I'm not that's not even my concern. It's that there's sickness in the family that's not being healed, and And so the deal is I can't heal my family, and I'm no longer, I'm checking the cameras, I'm no longer in a position where I'm interested in being around while the active sickness creates damage.
Yeah, a lot of people don't get that clue.
Yeah. Well, most people are obligated by shame and guilt to stick around for that. And
such a waste of time.
I just can't. I can't do it. And so I don't know if it's
hello,
my weakness.
That's an applause moment. If you can't do it, no, I see can't means won't, and in this case, that's a perfect use of the word.
Well,
I won't
both.
do it.
It's can't and won't. I mean, I can't do that and function.
Yeah.
So I won't.
Yeah.
And so it's, and I'm fortunate enough. Like, here's where resources like the Sims Foundation, and Sims was a friend of mine. I mean, I was there. I was there the day that he tried to take his life. I was in his home with his family and friends, and I got to be on the very first kind of thrown together board of Sims Foundation.
Tell everybody what Sims stands for again.
Sims is it's Sims Ellison. He was a bass player, and he suffered from depression, and he tried to take his own life, and he was successful. It wasn't fast, and it wasn't pretty, and there was a lot of people who loved the guy. Everybody loved the guy, and everybody was shocked.
I remember the day.
And and so out of that came a few people said, a few people who were very integral to the local music industry said, we got to keep this from ever happening again. And so they created kind of a network of low-cost mental health care for musicians, and then eventually their significant others, and then that grew into Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, which is now part of Seton Care. And so there's this wonderful net of mental health and physical health and spiritual health for our music community and our creative community, and I've been the benefactor of that. So because of my my own path and that sort of thing, I've been the benefactor of the services that were created out of the loss of somebody who I cared deeply about, and that I helped that organization in its path and growth, very minimally. My story is that I finally have been able to put those things behind me, and like literally behind me. And unfortunately, I can't drag the baggage. Like there's the members of my family who are healthy enough to be a part of my life are still a part of my life, and the ones who aren't, unfortunately, I can't. Maybe I'm not strong enough, or I don't feel like I'm too strong for them, right? But I don't feel like I'm strong enough to maintain those relationships, so I don't, out of self-preservation. And so maybe that makes me a shitty person in some people's eyes, but those people, I'm not that interested what they think about me. So
yeah, absolutely.
When stuff started getting really bad, when my dad and my mom divorced, I was about 10 years old. We lived here in Texas. And I was really terrified. I was a really sensitive kid, and I was just kind of in this continual state of bewilderment and terror. And I got relief by, I was a latchkey kid, and so I would turn the TV on during the day, and during the summer, I started seeing this Gong Show with Chuck Barris, and it was like a magic release from all my pain and troubles and worries. And there was this irreverence, and there was this freedom, and there was this just controlled insanity. And I couldn't believe that adults did this. I couldn't believe that it happened, period. And I knew my purpose at that point. And I was like, my purpose in life is to be Chuck Barris. And so I was too afraid and too self-destructive and all that stuff to let myself do that. And music presented itself, and so I followed that for 30 years. And then little by little, kind of click by click, I became, at one point in time, about 3 or 4 years ago, I looked up and I went, I'm Chuck Barris. I've become Chuck Barris. Like, not as wildly successful.
Have you written him to let him know you've stolen his identity?
I've been trying to get in touch with him. I want to meet him before he dies. I've gotten to meet most of my heroes.
He's got to be up there in age now.
Yeah, he is, and he survived a pretty bad bout of cancer.
Oh.
And he's still writing. I mean, he still writes books, and so I really but he's really he took so much shit over creating the Gong Show, and a lot of people credit him in a negative sense, for creating reality television. But so he's kind of, when it comes to the Gong Show, he's kind of not interested. The last real interest he showed was to do that work, to work with them on that film. With
what film?
Sam Rockwell, The Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Oh.
So, here's how, when we talk about me getting sober and all that stuff.
Go ahead and burp. Just let it out.
I'm trying to. Well, I want to
do like this.
I want a
like
Rick
this.
and Morty. I want a Rick and Morty. But I had these jalapeno poppers from Rotten Tomato.
Yeah.
33 South Lamar. I don't know what I think that is it though. 33 South Lamar Rotten Tomato, the tomato, farm to table, gluten free, and South Austin yeast pizza and salads and pasta and jalapeno poppers.
Was
that
that
are
a
so
live,
badass.
That's a live spot you just did, right?
I just did a live spot.
commercial.
It was a free. Well,
Yeah.
no, actually, he'll buy us lunch.
Okay.
So I have these jalapeno poppers, right?
Were they
Because
hot?
I hadn't eaten. They are so hot.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
so
hot,
good.
hot,
so
hot,
good.
hot, yeah.
And so if I belch
my
one of
mouth is
those in
watering.
your face,
Oh yeah.
your mouth will not be watering. Well, it'll be watering. There'll be moisture. It'll just be kind
Do
of
you know
vomit.
that I'm old enough that if somebody burps within 3 feet of my face, I know to turn my head.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guarantee you can burp all you want.
That's
I
why
know
I
the
blow
body
it.
language.
That's why I'm like.
But so do we? What? Before I ask my question, well, I was gonna say, do we? Okay. So he was very almost serious talking to you about your background, but at the same time, it gives anybody interested sort of your backstory so they know who you are. Now, a lot of times people don't really care about who the people are.
Yeah.
They just want to be entertained.
Yeah,
They
totally.
want that small snippet of something to just entertain them. So,
Well, for those people, I got beat and yelled at a lot.
okay, yeah. Well, if you don't have
all right,
photographs,
yeah.
it's not as good. Okay, because photographs prove that happened to you.
The best beating I ever got from my dad was one time he said something, and it was like, well, what you need to do, how is it that people say do twice,
What you need to do.
Yeah.
Do.
Yeah.
No,
however, yeah. Like when you go, you said do, right?
right,
So
yeah,
my
yeah,
dad said something like that, and he was trying to be serious. And I went, and then he goes, oh, was that funny? I bet you think a dog taking a shit is funny. And then I got this mental image of this dog just like, just back arched and just pushing one out.
Up against a post on a mailbox.
And now just out in the middle of a field, just a lone dog, arched back, choking one out. And I started laughing so hard, and boy, did I. That was a good beating. That was a good beating. So anyways, that's for the people who need a laugh.
Did he beat you with a belt?
Probably. I mean, but his hands were good enough.
Oh gosh.
But it was he's a guy that had anger problems, and he admitted that he had a drinking problem and stuff like that. And the thing is, I'm not letting blood here because I'm still I'm still traumatized by that. I'm not, and I was for years, and then I spent years where I wasn't sure, but I wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But because of Sims, I've done this EMDR therapy, and it's actually changed my neuro pathways.
Is it like biofeedback or something?
I don't know exactly how to describe it. I mean, I could, but I'm not. I don't know enough about it. What I can say is it really, really works.
Did they cut into your skull?
Yeah.
Did they remove any tissue?
They put you in this thing with your face down, and they put screws into your temples, and then they just start spinning. Have you seen the movie The Boy Who Fell Off the World or so? Anyway, so no, it's no. So I've gone through years of talk therapy and years of anger stuff, and then this EMDR, and it's like I have a new relationship to my entire past. And that relationship is that everything in my life has brought me to this wonderful, amazing, magic place. I went through this period where I was really negative. I went through decades where I was really self-destructive. I've had problems my whole career letting myself be successful. I've had problems with monogamy. I've had problems with honesty. I've had problems with selfishness. And a couple years ago, some stuff changed, and they led to something else, and then I wind up just going through this major, major thing. And I had already been going down that path for several years before that. But I was, sober a couple decades when all this stuff happened. And then there was this new change. And this new change happened. And I'm this new person. Like when I was 22 and I got sober, I became a new person. And probably every 5 years since then, I look up and I'm like, who's this guy? But this last time, the stuff that happened to me changed me in a way that I just realized you can't do anything bad to me. You can cause me harm. I can cause me harm, but in the big picture, everything works out.
Yeah. Everything
works out. And, and I have my spiritual beliefs and that shit, and it's a little cosmic, and I'm not always comfortable talking about it with people I'm intimate with. There's this change in me, and I just realize that the stuff that happens to me, it defines my experience, but it doesn't define me. Like, all these things are ultimately like gifts that have made me who and what I am. And who and what I am is something kind of special, no more or less special than anybody else, special in my own way. And I got these gifts. And for me to not share them is not cool. And so
I think that's true for everybody. Each of us has gifts.
Yeah.
That we bring to the table.
Yeah. And the thing is I think one of the most difficult parts of anybody's path is getting comfortable with saying, okay, I have a gift, and I'm supposed to give it.
Mm-hmm. When do we get to interact with our friends on Facebook? Because
anytime you want, they can ask questions. I'd love to. Here's the short thing. I became a musician. I toured all over the world as a musician. I did that. About 10 years about 10 years ago, I started making films and stuff. Or about 20 years ago, I started acting. And then I started getting interested in what the crew was doing. And then, so about 10 years, I started getting interested in making films.
Yeah.
And then I'd always done kind of advertising stuff. I created what's now called Adult Swim Presents. It was called Austin Swim at the time. And it was this Cartoon Network has this thing called Adult Swim. It's cartoons for big kids. And I threw this big party that was really successful, and the network loved it. And then I created a touring model, and they took it, and then that turned into, after that whole relationship dissolved, I took my creation and made that the Austin Variety Show.
Yes.
And so my little gift back to Austin, out of that has been that I get to showcase and promote Austin music and Austin comedy and Austin burlesque and art. And then I've got this game show where I get to just basically be kind of an idiot and give people like silly things and let them lighten up and kind of make fun of them and in good humor and that sort of thing. And so if you're watching us on Facebook and you haven't left yet, how many people do we have now? Oh, there's 10 people. Oh my God, there's 10 of you that actually care. Thank you.
No, these are 10 people who don't have bosses.
Yeah.
Independently wealthy.
Or they're waiting for their boss to come in and fire them.
Or they're just waiting for the bus to come.
Yes.
Not just the boss.
So first off, thank you for sticking around this long. Or if you're just joining us and you've only been on for a minute or two, where the fuck have you been?
Your makeup looks good, Troy. You look good in that light.
I did it myself. I did the Donald Trump eye thing. Like that. And so anyway, thank you for sticking with us this long. And we are, over time, you're going to find out all about us. Like the next episode that we do, we're going to interview Debra. Oh, here's, Deanna says, okay, how did growing up overseas influence the type of work you ended up doing, Debra?
Oh, are we interviewing me now? Okay, well, that's an interesting thing because for a lot of military brats, what we notice we have in common is that besides the fact that we're a subculture, is that we pretty much can fit in anywhere. And we're forced to make friends. Well, not forced, because not everybody who's a military brat is gregarious or wants to make friends. But for me, it was always about the people always looked different. When I was growing up, the people always spoke a different language. They always looked different. Mm-hmm. So I had to work with what I had. Of course, I went to American schools overseas, but growing up overseas makes, I think, it makes us more willing to step into unknown territory. Mm-hmm. Now, I think you take that and you couple it with whatever it is you choose to do in life, and it can be a benefit or it can be a hindrance, because, you still have to mind your P's and Q's wherever you go. Mm-hmm. But I think being a military brat mostly has just given me the incredible appreciation for armed services. Mm-hmm. I've been removed from the military as a dependent for many, many years. My dad was in the Air Force for 30 years. But my love and admiration for those who have served and who are serving runs deep, mm-hmm. and it's forever. Mm-hmm. And so I would say the biggest influence that being a military brat has had on me is that there are people willing to serve. Mm-hmm. That there are always people willing to serve. Yeah. And there are fewer now that are serving. We don't, have as many people serving, but I'm deeply grateful. I can barely even explain it beyond that, mm-hmm. the gratitude that I have.
And so that's an aesthetic or an ethic that you carry that I see. You're not the kind of personality that's too big or too special to do something, that's not, you're not like,
I'm not beneath anything.
You're not beneath anything, and you're not so focused on the microphone that you're not willing to do other things. Oh. There's stuff that you don't know how to do, and if you don't, you say, I don't know how to do this, which is also operating with military efficiency. It's like, I don't know how to do that, sir. So
growing up in the military has been a blessing, and I think a lot of us who are older now, we look back and we go, when you're young, you're like, God damn it, we got to move again. But when you get older, you realize, wow, that was pretty awesome to be able to do that. But you can't appreciate certain things when you're in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. You have to have years of being away from it before you recognize how special and unique it was. Yeah. But that's not to say that a military brat's upbringing is more special or unique than a kid whose dad was a crook, mm-hmm. as you explained to us earlier. So it's just that, for those of us with a military connection, we sort of love to high-five each other who've been to these various bases around the world. Where mm-hmm. were you born? You were born overseas. And where are you from? Well, really nowhere. For me to have lived in Austin as long as I have I've never lived anywhere longer. Mm-hmm. And, for the longest time, when I first got here, I was like, my job is to leave after 3 years. I'll come to Austin for 3 years, and then I got to go somewhere.
Just start getting uncomfortable?
Just start getting uncomfortable. I'm glad I never left.
What year did you get here?
85.
85. All right. I got 10 years on you.
Yeah.
I got full rank.
Full rank.
That's another concept of the military life. I'm just staying in the theme here.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. No. Can I go now?
No, we need to wrap the show up.
Okay, how do we wrap it up?
Okay.
Let's put a bow on this sucker.
Well, like we've said, we've got a way to wrap it up.
Okay.
So we're gonna honestly. So real quick, how'd you feel about today's show?
Feel?
Yeah.
What
does this feel?
What does this feel? I'll put your pen back. Troy, I think I never have high expectations of.
Did you put my pen somewhere it just doesn't even go? Like right Mr. There. Anal's pen. You don't even know where you got that.
All right, I'll leave it out.
I will refile the pen.
You refile.
This is because you actually got one of the shitty pens.
You know what?
You can have. Why don't you keep this pen?
No, I have a pen in my purse. I get pens at the bank.
All right, fine. This may have been a bank pen. I just don't want it. This is actually one of my
bank
low risk pens.
Low risk.
Yeah.
Let me show you something. This is what happens when you're a female. Mm-hmm. My bank pen matches my composite book.
Nice.
This is how I roll.
So does my free pen. Look.
Oh, right.
There
nice.
it is. So.
But you want to ask me what my feelings were about.
All right.
The
So
show
how do you
today.
feel about the show today?
Because I do not come with expectations.
Yeah.
I just roll.
Yeah.
So I don't feel disappointed or elated.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go home and reflect on what we did, and then think real hard about how can we avoid getting into political discussions? How can we avoid it? Mm-hmm. And try to stay true to the promise of let's have good fun with people listening and watching, so that they know that when they come here, they're not going to hear the hair splitting that's going on everywhere around them. I mean, it's just everywhere. And I, once something's brand new, it always feels kind of strange. Like, I don't know quite right. And then I'll have the for a while tonight, I'll be like, I can't do that again. I can't go back there. And then I'll be like, oh, I can't wait to go back there.
Yeah.
So, it's I'm not going to be disappointed or elated one way or the other. So, yeah.
Well, that's the purpose of this little segment. I am really, really excited. I'm honored to be interviewed by you because you're so fucking good at what you do. You're so good, and so, I think I even had some expectations of where the interview might go, and okay, I want to make sure, and I did. I said, here's some things I want to make sure that I talk about, right? But we went some areas and spent a lot of time in areas that I just don't spend time in anymore mostly because I've dealt with them and because they're not really, if anything, they're a hindrance to my life now. Like I spent so much time being held back by certain things. Like I felt like my family was a hindrance for most of my life, and I really feel like I'm decades behind where I could be had I not had to deal with all that shit and had it not holding me back. So in some ways it's uncomfortable to go there, not for the reason of revisiting it. It is that to go back there is just more time spent there. Yeah. When I'd rather be where I'd rather be. Yeah. And but I'm really honored to get to work with you and do this. We took a really long time conceptualizing this, in letting it gestate.
Well, I think if we go take the handguns on my property.
Yeah. That's gonna get.
I think if we do it and I have a pool, so we can go swimming, dry off, and put our handguns on and run around the pool. Yeah. So I
say we shoot water guns in the pool and then real guns out of the pool, and then we we throw rocks at shit when we run out of bullets. All right. So here's what we want you to do. All right. This has been June 23rd, episode 1. And make sure that you visit our website if you're not watching this there. It's honestlyatx.com. Add us on our social media, honestlyatx. That's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitters. If you have any questions or if you want to sponsor or advertise with us, email us at honestlyatx@gmail.com. We're still getting used to this. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Hopefully, we've done this honestly. Good job.
See you later.
See you next time. Well, that's a good place to stop for now. Clearly, I could talk about myself forever. And I... It was difficult editing this. I edited the thing, and it's difficult because I see that I have a tendency to mansplain, or at least that's how it feels. Maybe I'm being too sensitive, but when I take this earnest, explanatory tone, it's a little hard for me to watch. And and so hopefully that's something I can do better as a host as I keep doing this, because I'm going to keep doing this. And I hope that you'll keep being a part of it with me. This is an effort to bring positivity to the world around us. I don't know how big my audience will get. That's basically you and me. I don't know how many people are going to listen to this, but I'm going to do what I'm going to ask you to do, which is, in my way, I'm going to bring my best, my most positive to the world. And so there's a number of people that I can reach in doing that. And there's a number of people that you can reach in doing that. And I am saying I'm going to do it, and I'm asking you to do it. The waves, let's make the positive waves the bigger waves and wash away the negative debris. It's it's not going to happen immediately, and it's not always going to be horrible. But if you feel like things are confusing or difficult, or if you feel like, the world just ain't what it used to be, which I find myself feeling a lot, then let's make the world that we desire, and the world I desire is one that we're honest, and we're truthful, but we're positive. And that requires some work. It means not accepting every fact that you receive as gospel truth, no matter where it comes from. Do a little research, find out, make sure, and then find something positive in it. And it doesn't have to be some phony, ridiculous, unrealistic positivity. Bring the true positive nature that you bring through your day. And just gauge it. If it's not negative, then it's at least neutral. So bring neutral or better to the table. Whether it's what you post on social media, or how you interact with the world, or how you are in traffic, what you do at the grocery store. Just try to lift the world up a little bit, because it needs it. It needs it right now. And so my pledge to you is that I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to ask you to do it as well. Hopefully I'll see you on the next episode. I'm going to try to bring you positive messages from positive people, positive events in our world, and I hope you'll join me on the next episode of Honestly with Troy Dillinger. Have a great day.